or a goal, and you have a clear intention that messages and signs and people come into your life, that's just like perfect. Well, that happened to me this morning. So I'm driving here thinking about I'm coming to the spiritual center, and this song comes into my mind. Let's get physical, physical by Olivia Newton-John, right? So I changed it to let's get spiritual, spiritual. Let our bodies talk. And I just thought serendipity struck again. And, I just love that. And I just find that when we are clear in our intention, our focus in our projects, we send out a vibration that sends out a signal to draw other signals and messages and signs and people into our life. So for me, that's a sign of grace. And grace in Christian tradition is that God graces no matter what. So grace is always present in our life. However, we can leave grace. And I just love the word grace. I was trying to find a word that would describe the energy that we feel when we're connected to Source or God. And the word grace comes up for me. I just love that word. It just sends out a vibration for me deep inside. And so today I'm going to share with you some of the things that we can do on a daily practice that brings grace into our life. And so I'm also reminded that last Sunday we had our guest speaker, Nathan, who spoke about the gift of uncertainty. That when we are uncertain about things, that or fearful about the future, when we can stay present, there's a gift on the other side of that fear and uncertainty. Are we willing to be present and patient to allow for what's next to come into our life? So keep that in mind. What's the energy in the room right now? Excuse me? Yeah. Anything else? Anything come that you sense in the room energetically, a word or a phrase that would describe the experience and the energy in the room right now? Loving. Calm. Yeah. Very cool. I'm going to share a poem that I wrote as a guide into meditation. Imagine that it might be you. So it's written in the first person. And I got to remember to turn my phone off. So I'd like you to feel the weight of your body in the chair. The pressure on your bottom, the pressure against your back. Feel your contact with the floor and relax deeper. I'd like to invite you with an incoming breath of air, shrug your shoulders up by your ears and quickly exhaust your air and drop your shoulders. Again, inhale up and out. And this time, do it again gently. With an inhalation, lift up your shoulders and gently exhale and relax your shoulders and going deeper into the chair. I stand on top of the mountain and boldly present myself to the world, acknowledging the miracle of life that is in me and before me as I prepare to dance on the edge of control and surrender. I knowingly trust that it is in the dance of control and surrender that I will discover and express my unique voice. Just as the tree reaches for the sun, I too will stretch my limits as the divine grace of life compels me to be an expression of itself. In that expression, life is amplified and carried forward as one of the great mysteries in the known universe, and I am grateful. Notice any feelings, thoughts, or images that may come into your life, into your consciousness. Just notice them and let them go. Slowly come back into the room, feeling your feet on the floor, the weight of your body in your chair. Take an incoming breath of air and exhale through your mouth with a sigh. Slowly open your eyes and let the world enter. What is the energy in the room now? Or what might your experience be? Calm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So today's talk is about having grace in our life, actually embodying grace. So it's kind of challenging to talk about embodiment. We're going to embody grace. And so some of the things that you've already done this morning are ways that we can invite grace into our life in a more conscious way. So some of those that we've done this morning and you've done is that you've slowed down to be available. You've taken time out of your day. You've come to join in community. You've meditated. So when we slow down and smell the roses or go to the lake and see the clarity of the water, it can help clarify our own thoughts. When we smell the fragrance of the pine trees, it invigorates us. You know, as spiritual beings, we experience our life through our body. And so often, since a gentleman, a scientist, mathematician in France, around 1640, René Descartes, separated the mind from the body. He said the mind's great for helping us define and plan our life for us. And the body is merely a mechanical device. But for thousands of years prior to that, the mind and the body were one, are one and still is. It's one functioning system. The body senses our surroundings and our world, and it feeds our mind to interpret that information. And then the mind directs the body to take some kind of action. It's one whole functioning system. They're not separate. But tragically, since René Descartes came up with this duality and split of the mind and body, it has infused Western civilization. And it even occurs in our school systems. You know, it's like, Johnny, stop what you're doing. So what we're seeing is that there's a diminishing of physical education in our school system. And they use it as an excuse that there's not enough money. But I can tell you, being an athlete all my life, it's the passion and exuberance that we experience in our body. It oxygenates our brain to send fresh blood and oxygen so that we can think clearly. And when I think about grace, I think about the movement of grace. You know, when I think about a ballerina, a dancer, and I know that when I ski, there's times for me that I move into this place of grace in my movement. And it's this coordinated balance between the mind, the body, and spirit, tapping into a song that's inside of me that wants to be expressed gracefully through my skiing. People have told me that I ski, that I'm Mr. Fluid. And what I try to do is try to be really efficient, that there's no extraneous movements in my skiing. And so I bring grace in my life, whether it be on the snow, on a mountain bike, or with you. And so remember that grace is always present, but something happens to us as human beings that we can disconnect from that natural state. And what happened in being human is that early on in our childhood, we developed coping strategies. Some children grew up in abusive family life. It could be alcoholism, it could be physical, mental, emotional, sexual abuse. It could be the dysfunction of parenting. And the child doesn't know how to make sense of this. It's very confusing. Sometimes they go into shame and think it's their fault. And what happens is that the body of a child doesn't have the capacity to negotiate or communicate their feelings and what their needs are. So what they often will do is stuff the energy in their body. They will stuff the emotions of fear, anger, disappointment, shame in their body. And what happens in the first 5 years of the child's life, that response, that instinctive taking care of ourselves and adapting to our environment becomes a neurophysical pathway in our body. It creates an etching, a pattern of behavior that is called by some psychologists hardwired. It is in our system. And the more we live in that kind of dynamic, the more that pattern gets reinforced and it gets hardwired. Now, the good news is, for those of us who have been in a positive, loving family life, that also occurs for the child. So the child, those of us that might be parents, that when we love our children and support their vision, even though their vision may be different than our own, but if we support them and encourage them to find that passion that is uniquely theirs, a neural pathway is built for that as well. Now, what happens is that neural pathway, that hard wiring, goes into adulthood. So I don't know if you've ever experienced yourself or someone. I'll give you my experience. So I grew up in an Italian family. The first 5 years of my life, I lived with my parents and my grandparents from Italy. And they came from northern Italy. And during the World War II, the German Nazis occupied northern Italy. They took the food, they took the wine. They really impoverished the Italian people. But they didn't impoverish their spirit and their dignity. What they did is they internalized and created an underground of resistance. It was the underground of resistance that helped the Allies defeat the Germans. Now, what they did is they created a code of conduct. And that code of conduct proved to be successful for them. So my family thought that that code of conduct might be helpful for me. So being successful in a war-torn country certainly could be helpful in a peaceful America. And so I learned a code. The code was, don't draw attention to yourself. Don't be better than anyone else. Don't speak Italian. And so those became hardwired in me as a child, and it shows up in my life as an adult. Both of my parents were working. They worked really hard and worked their way from the bottom to an executive position. So their model behavior was to work hard to achieve. So they were very critical. I was an only child, and so their criticism was kind of stung for me. It kind of hurt because I didn't feel like I was good enough. And all children want to feel loved by their parents. But we didn't have the communication skills to articulate what was going on. So I kind of reacted. In adult life, when I hear unsolicited opinions, I could take that as criticism. And it's like a sting, even today. But the good news is that we can, once we learn about our behavior and our imprints, A good practice is called emotional autobiography. If we can take some time and look back on our life and pinpoint the highlight reels of what caused us, what emotions were present that caused us to adapt in a certain way, you might see how it will show up in your adult life. When you bring consciousness to the unconscious, it diminishes its power over us, which then gives us choice. So for me, I know that I'm hardwired to take criticism or feedback or opinions as criticism, I jerk. Knowing that, I can center and ground myself. I can breathe. I not take it personally. I might reframe it as to what's the gift here, what's the learning here. So yes, we can, through our adaptive behavior from childhood, disconnect from the grace of God in our life. For an example, right now, clench your fist. So have this be a metaphor for how we're in the world and we're afraid and we shut down. We tighten up. Our muscles contract, our shortness of breath. And so let's have this fist be a metaphor for how we respond to fear and anger. Those of you who are sitting next to somebody, I'd like you to have a conversation with your fist, your closed hand with somebody. No verbs, but just communicate through your hands. So it could look something like this. So what are the options when we're shut down with a closed fist? Okay. Now, let's open ourselves up to possibilities. Open up our hands, open up our life, open up our heart. And what kind of a conversation can we have now with somebody? So we can engage, we can be intimate, we have all these variables of possibility when we're open, as opposed to being shut down. So use this little metaphor in the course of your day, in your life. Are you shutting down and closing down your fist? Or are you opening up your hands in your life for possibility of connection and creativity? Okay. So these are some of the practices that we can use to reconnecting to grace in our life. I'm going to offer you one more. It's called body prayer. Body prayer is the intention, is our intention in movement. We can create ideas in our minds and visions, but those are creative imaginations. They become congruent and integral in our life when they are embodied. So what I'd like you to do is go back to a relaxed state. Feel the weight of your body in your chair. Inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. And I want to invite you to pick a quality, an aspect that described by a word of the qualities that you want in your life today and move forward with. Some examples could be loving, healthy, trustworthy, connected. So pick a word that you really resonates true in your heart of the condition you most want in your life right now. So what we're going to do is that I'm going to use the bowl. And when you hear the sound of the bowl, I want you to take your hand and, first of all, put your hand on your heart. When you hear the bowl, I want you to lift up your hand and say, I am healthy. for example, whatever word that you choose. When you no longer hear the word, let it drop to your chest. So it's going to be something like this. I am. And then when you no longer hear it, let your hand drop to your heart and say the word. I am healthy. Is that clear? Okay. Would you be willing to accept this condition that you've declared as part of you? The I am statement, these two simple words, have been in existence for thousands of years. They are part of the spiritual and religious tradition. When we say I am, we are declaring we're an individuation of God's presence. We are declaring that what is true is that we're owning it now. It's not that I will in the future or I was in the past. It's I am healthy now, and I'm claiming it. And so throughout the day, remind yourself of this quality of I am. Take time out throughout the day, every day, to reconnect with your heart center and what you want to create in your life. If you notice your body rejecting that, then you're not aligned. You may not trust what you're saying to be true. So you want to have congruency, that what you're declaring you are, what you're declaring you want to be, let that resonate deeply in your body. Again, one unit, mind, body, spirit, and move in the world that way. So when you, throughout the course of the day, things can trigger us and we can get disconnected, we can get angry, we can start thinking about the past, the future. There's some tools that we've done this morning. Take time out, meditate, be with like-minded, like-hearted community members. We can declare what we so who we are and what we are with the I am statement. These tools are always with you, as grace is always present in our life. So grace is present. Are you? So I'm a Eucharistic minister in the Episcopal Church. And the Episcopal Church is kind of like Catholic light. And what I like about it is that it's very inclusive, and most of the priests are psychologists and authors. It's a very high level of inclusivity and currents. One of the things about being a Eucharistic minister is we do Holy Communion. Now, Holy Communion is the breaking of bread and drinking of wine. And that goes back to its origin of the Last Supper, when Jesus was at the Last Supper at the table and his 12 disciples. And he took some bread and he says, "Eat, this is my body. Eat it in remembrance of me." He then took a cup of wine and he extended to them and said, "Drink, this is my blood, which is given to you in remembrance of me." Now, that is in the tradition of Christianity. In the Universal Church and in the Unity Church, most of us don't do that. But what I like about it is that we're standing up for our faith. It's not so much that the wine and the bread are body and blood. It's what it really truly is that we're taking a stand for our faith and our Christian faith, for having the grace of God in our life. So when we stand to move forward to the altar, we're taking a stand for that. Now, what I've done is I found some existing technology that may be an adaptation of that concept. So a Japanese scientist, Masaru Emoto, wrote a book called The Hidden Messages in Water. And what he did is he did research about the pollutants in water, the vibration of music, and our intention. And what he noticed is that vibration, that pollutant, changed the crystalline structure of water. Very fascinating. And so repeated research showed that if we have an intention of love, that we're infusing this water. So this morning, our intention has been grace, the grace of God in our life. And so I believe that that vibration is in this water. So this is going to be our holy water for today. And so this water will be back in the hospitality room. And I invite you, if you like, to drink the water of grace. Okay? So that's going to be my sort of contribution of being a Eucharistic minister in a unity context, is that based on science. So following my talk, which has now come to an end, a couple of things. I'm going to offer after I forget what they call it. Celebration of gratitude, but so in Christian we call it the collection. It's the gift. So after that, I'm going to offer a laying of hands for healing. So that's something new here. It's the way it works. It's totally voluntary. You don't have to be sick. But if you want to feel a sense of connection and having grace in your life, the way it works is we'll form in a circle, and you're grounded, centered and grounded. We are not the source of the healing. We are a channel for God's work through us. And we will lay our hands on those who would care to receive this. So it's totally voluntary. It's kind of special. And another added bonus is that I actually have some anointing oil from the Holy Land that was from the olive trees in Jerusalem, and the scents and the formula is based on biblical formula. And if you'd like that, that's just a simple thing where you just stand before me and I anoint you with the oil on your forehead. And it's really simple. So that's what we have to look forward to. The other thing I'll make an announcement about is that I'm reintroducing what I call unity in practice. So what I found years ago is that sometimes these talks would create insights or confusion. And there was no way of sharing that or like moving that energy or that confusion or that excitement. So I created Unity in Practice, which is an hour-long program in which we use the Quaker Oak, the Quaker tradition of the sacred circle. So there's no cross-talking. We don't talk about politics. We learn how to really be present and listening. There's no cross-talking. We're just present and listening and learning how to speak from our truth, from our personal I pronoun. So laying of hands, and then after some time after hospitality, we'll do the unity and practice. Okay? Well, thank you for participating. Thank you for being here. Hope you'll continue to come. It only gets better. You know, we're working hard to get new speakers, and those of you that know of speakers that you think would be appropriate for unity, please let us know, because we like to enrich our community with new energy, new thoughts, new insights. All right? All right. Thank you so much.